There is a kind of pain that words struggle to contain, the kind that does not come from strangers or enemies, but from the very hands and lips of those who were meant to protect, cherish, and uplift you. It is one thing to be wounded by the world outside, but it is something far more piercing to be wounded at the dinner table, to be dismissed by the very people who share your blood, to be betrayed by those whose love you thought was a given. Many listening right now carry scars carved not by fate, but by family, and often that wound feels permanent. You ask yourself why? Why does it hurt so much? It hurts because family is meant to be a safe haven, yet instead it becomes the battlefield where your heart is shattered. You replay the moments of rejection, the seasons where your worth was belittled, where your voice was silenced, and where your loyalty was repaid with betrayal. That kind of pain lingers. It lingers in silence, in sleepless nights, in the hidden tears no one sees. And yet, this is not the final chapter. What you must understand is this: God does not waste pain, not even the pain inflicted by those closest to you. That rejection you faced, that humiliation you endured, that betrayal you suffered, they were not the end of your story. They were the soil from which your destiny will rise. What they thought would bury you is what God will use to grow you, and the glory He is preparing will be so radiant that even those who wounded you will not be able to deny it. Have you noticed how darkness always tries to conceal light, yet in the end, it only makes the light shine brighter? In the same way, the pain they gave you was meant to conceal your value, but God intends to use it as the very stage upon which His favor will be displayed. The betrayal becomes a platform. The rejection becomes a witness stand. The silence they left you in becomes the theater where God will speak the loudest. Picture Joseph, cast into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery by those who should have loved him most. His journey was filled with injustice, betrayal, and forgotten promises. Yet in the end, the very ones who hurt him bowed before him, forced to witness the glory God had placed upon his life. That is the nature of divine justice. God does not simply restore, He elevates. And when He elevates, even your family, even your betrayers, cannot turn away. They must watch, they must see. So when you carry the pain of your family's rejection, remember this truth: God is writing a story far greater than their cruelty. He is turning your tears into testimony, your heartbreak into harvest, your rejection into recognition. You are not forgotten, and you are not forsaken. Their actions may have spoken loudly, but God's response will thunder louder still. And here is the beauty of it. When God brings you into your glory, it will not be in secret. It will not be hidden. It will be in plain sight. Those who laughed at your dreams, those who mocked your struggles, those who cast you aside will stand as witnesses, unable to deny what God has done. They may never apologize. They may never admit their fault. But their silence in the face of your rise will speak louder than any words they could utter. So do not despair if your family caused you pain. Do not crumble under the weight of betrayal. Lift your head even in your brokenness, and trust that God is not finished with you. For the very pain they inflicted is being transformed into a crown of glory. And when it is placed upon your head, they will see it, and they will not be able to deny it. Now let us unfold the truth to anchor this promise in your heart. Pain from family cuts deepest, because it attacks where love should live, but God turns it into the soil of destiny. There is a certain paradox in life that often feels unbearable to the soul. The ones we expect to be our safest refuge can become the very architects of our deepest wounds. Pain from strangers can sting, but it fades quickly because we never entrusted them with the most delicate chambers of our hearts. Pain from family, however, pierces differently. It does not merely graze the skin, it carves itself into the spirit, because family is where love should dwell. Family should be the fortress that shelters us from the cruelty of the outside world. When that fortress turns into a battlefield, the heart does not merely bleed, it shatters. Perhaps you have felt it. The silence at the dinner table that screams louder than any words, the constant dismissal of your dreams, the whispers of comparison, the rejection that makes you feel like an outsider in your own home. And because you once trusted them with your soul, their betrayal feels like an echo chamber, reverberating through every corner of your being. This is why family pain lingers. It is not only about what they did, but about who they were supposed to be and how they failed in that sacred role. Yet here lies the mystery of God's hand. He takes the very soil of betrayal, rejection, and disappointment, and he plants within it the seeds of destiny. What looks like devastation to you is often preparation in his eyes. Just as a seed must be buried beneath the dark earth before it can grow, your pain becomes the ground in which God buries greatness. If you had not been pushed aside, you might never have sought his face with such desperation. If you had not been overlooked, you might never have discovered the strength he placed within you. The soil of your pain is not wasted. It is the sacred ground of your becoming. Think of how fire refines gold. The fire itself is destructive, yet without it the gold remains impure. In the same way, family pain feels destructive, but God uses it to refine your soul, to strip away illusions, to teach you dependence not on man, but on him. When those closest to you fail, you are compelled to anchor yourself in the one who never will, and this anchoring is what gives birth to destiny. God does not merely allow pain to exist as a cruel accident. He bends it, shapes it, and repurposes it for divine outcomes. When your family tore you down, he was building something stronger within you. When they mocked, he whispered his approval. When they ignored you, he was writing your name on the palm of his hand. And though their rejection may have been real, his acceptance has always been greater. His acceptance has always been greater. This is why you must not despise the pain, for it is not wasted and it will not last. What they meant for harm, God is weaving into purpose. Their betrayal was a wound, yes, but in his hands it becomes the soil of destiny, the dark ground from which your glory will rise. Every rejection is a stage upon which God will one day display his favor. Rejection feels like the cruelest verdict. It is as though someone has declared you unworthy, unwanted, unnecessary. And when that rejection comes from family, its echo seems to chase you into every room of your life. You begin to doubt your own worth, to question your very existence. Why was I not enough? Why did they push me away? Why was my voice silenced, my love overlooked? These are the questions that haunt a rejected heart. And yet, in the mystery of divine providence, rejection is not an ending. It is a stage being prepared. Picture a theater before the curtain rises. To the audience, the stage looks empty, perhaps even lifeless. But behind the curtain, preparations are taking place. The lights are being set, the actors are taking their places, the script is ready to be brought to life. That is what rejection feels like. It looks like emptiness. It looks like loss. It looks like silence. But behind the curtain, God is preparing a stage, and when the time is right, the curtain will rise and his favor will shine upon you. This is why you must never let rejection define you. For in God's hands, rejection is not a verdict, it is an announcement. It is a declaration that he is about to demonstrate his glory in your life. Think of Joseph again, rejected by his brothers, cast aside as worthless. Their rejection was cruel, but in reality they were unknowingly preparing the stage for his destiny. For how could Joseph ever have reached the palace had he not first been rejected by his own? Their rejection became the doorway to his elevation. Every time someone in your family rejected you, pushed you away, or belittled your worth, they were not closing your story. They were opening the stage for God to display his favor. They thought they were burying you, but they were actually planting you. And when the season of your favor arrives, it will not be a private blessing. It will be visible. It will be undeniable. Those who once turned away from you will be forced to watch as God's hand lifts you higher than they ever imagined. Rejection humbles the heart, strips away pride, and prepares you for the weight of glory. If you had never been rejected, you might have believed your elevation came from man. But because you were rejected, when God lifts you, all will know it was his doing and his alone. There will be no mistake, no confusion. The stage is his, and the glory is his. So take courage when rejection comes, even from those closest to you. For though it pierces the soul, it is not the final word. The final word belongs to God, and his word is always a word of favor. Your rejection is only the empty stage before the curtain rises, and when it does, the very ones who rejected you will sit as witnesses, unable to deny the favor of God resting upon your life. Family betrayal is not the end of your story, but the beginning of God's greater narrative. When betrayal comes from the outside world, you can often shake it off. But when betrayal comes from the inside, when it comes from those who share your roof, your blood, your history, it feels like your entire story has been erased. It feels final, like a sentence written in stone. They betrayed you, so perhaps that must mean your worth was small, your value insignificant, your destiny over. But what if I told you that family betrayal is not the end of your story at all? What if it is the first chapter of a far greater narrative God is writing over your life? Think for a moment of the sacred paradox woven throughout Scripture and human history. Again and again, the greatest elevations began with betrayal. David was betrayed by Saul, though his heart was pure. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, though he dreamed only of goodness. Even Christ himself was betrayed by one seated at his own table. Betrayal feels like an end, but in the hands of God, betrayal is a door, a threshold into a story far greater than the betrayers themselves could have imagined. When your family betrayed you, they may have thought they were silencing your voice, cutting off your future, or writing the final chapter of your worth. But in truth, all they did was provide God with the perfect beginning for his glory to unfold in your life. For how else could his sovereignty be displayed unless human cruelty first tried to shut the door? How else could his restoration shine unless you first experienced loss? The beauty of God's narrative is that it never stops at betrayal. Betrayal is but the ink with which he writes redemption. What looks like an interruption to you is a divine setup for a greater unfolding. And often, it is family betrayal that becomes the most powerful tool in his hands, for it cuts deepest, and therefore it provides the richest soil for his work. When you are betrayed, you are forced to see what you could not see before. You are compelled to walk roads you never would have chosen, but roads that lead you closer to him. Betrayal closes human doors so that you are left standing before his open gates. Betrayal severs the false so that the true can be revealed. And though it feels like devastation in the moment, in eternity's light, it becomes the turning point of your destiny. So do not mark your life by the moment of family betrayal. Do not say, "This was my ending." Say instead, "This was the page where God began his greater story." For he does not leave his children buried under betrayal. He lifts them, restores them, and writes chapters of glory that even those who betrayed cannot escape. God does not just restore, he elevates in ways even your enemies cannot ignore. Restoration is beautiful, but elevation is something far greater. When people speak of restoration, they imagine God giving back what was taken. The lost years, the dignity stolen, the opportunities withheld. And indeed, God is faithful to restore. But his pattern throughout history reveals something beyond restoration. He elevates. He lifts his children not back to where they were, but to heights they could not have reached without the pain, without the betrayal, without the loss. This is the way of divine justice. He does not merely replace what you lost. He multiplies it until even your enemies cannot deny his hand upon your life. Think again of Joseph. He was not simply restored to his family, he was elevated to rule over a kingdom, so much so that those who once mocked him were compelled to bow before him. Restoration would have meant going back to his father's house, but elevation meant standing in a palace with authority and favor that stretched far beyond anything his brothers could have imagined. This is the pattern of God. When you suffer, especially at the hands of family, he does not intend to return you to the same place you left. He intends to set you higher. He intends to lift you to a place where the same people who belittled you are forced to acknowledge his power in your life. Your pain, therefore, is not wasted. It becomes the very ladder upon which he raises you. And here is the wonder of it. The elevation is never quiet. God could bless you in secret, but his justice requires that he make your blessing visible. He prepares a table for you, not in the absence of your enemies, but in their presence. He causes the very ones who try to diminish you to witness the abundance he pours upon you. They may try to deny it, but they cannot. They may try to ignore it, but their eyes will see it. For elevation is God's answer to betrayal. This is why you must not fear the brokenness you endured. What they took from you, God intends to replace with more than you can measure. What they tried to bury, he intends to raise beyond their comprehension. You may have been mocked as insignificant, but his elevation will make you a testimony that cannot be silenced. You may have been discarded as worthless, but his hand will set you so high that even your betrayers will be forced to say, "Surely, this is the work of God." So when you think of restoration, lift your eyes higher. Expect more than simply being brought back. Expect elevation. Expect glory. Expect favor poured in measures so undeniable that no tongue can contest it. For God does not merely restore, he elevates. And when he does, the whole world, including your enemies, must bear witness. Your scars are not signs of defeat, but proof of God's coming testimony through you. Scars are strange things. They are the silent witnesses of battles fought and survived. They are reminders that pain was once present, yet healing has taken place. Many of us hide our scars because we believe they are evidence of weakness, failure, or defeat, but in the spiritual realm, scars carry a different meaning. Scars are not signs of defeat. They are living proof that what was meant to destroy you did not succeed. They are evidence that the hand of God has preserved you, and they become the very testimony through which his glory will be revealed. Think about it. If there were no scars, how would anyone know what you survived? If there were no marks upon your soul, how could others see the power of God's healing? Your scars are not shameful, they are sacred. They speak of nights you should not have endured, words that should have crushed you, betrayals that should have buried you, yet here you are, still breathing, still standing, still rising. The scar is not the end of your story. It is the marker of survival. When your family wounded you, the pain went deep. Their words, their rejection, their betrayal, it cut into your heart like a blade. For a time, the wound may have bled with grief, confusion, and despair. But now, though the pain is not forgotten, the wound has begun to heal, and what remains is a scar, not to remind you of your brokenness, but to testify of God's power to mend the brokenhearted. The scar is his signature upon your life. It says, "This one was hurt, but not destroyed. This one was wounded, but not abandoned. This one carries proof of my healing power." Even Christ himself carried scars. The marks in his hands and side were not erased after resurrection. They remained as eternal evidence of the price he paid and the victory he won. His scars did not diminish his glory. They magnified it. In the same way, your scars will magnify the glory of God in your life. They will speak louder than words, declaring that pain does not have the final say. And here is the beauty. Your scars will inspire others. Someone who feels they cannot survive their own betrayal will see your scars and find hope. Someone who believes they are ruined forever will see you and realize healing is possible. What you thought was your greatest weakness becomes the very evidence of his strength. What you thought disqualified you becomes the very testimony that draws others closer to him. So do not hide your scars. Do not despise them. Wear them as holy reminders that you endured what should have ended you, and now you carry proof of God's sustaining hand. Every scar is a prophecy in itself, a reminder that what hurt you will one day be used to glorify him. Divine justice ensures that those who hurt you will witness your rise. There is a quiet assurance that settles upon the soul when you understand divine justice. Human justice often fails. People escape accountability, lies go unchallenged, and betrayal appears to triumph. But divine justice never fails. And one of its most striking qualities is this: God does not simply vindicate you in private. He ensures that those who cause the pain will witness your rise. This is not about revenge, nor is it about harboring bitterness. It is about the character of God. He is a God who writes stories in such a way that the very people who laughed at you, mocked you, rejected you, or betrayed you must eventually stand as spectators to the work of his hand upon your life. Their denial cannot erase his display. Their silence cannot mute his blessing. When God chooses to favor you, he often does it in front of those who thought you least deserved it. Imagine the scene again in Joseph's story. The brothers who sold him into slavery, thinking they had ended his dreams, were later forced to come before him, hungry, desperate, and powerless. And there he was, clothed in royal garments, lifted to a position they never dreamed possible. That is divine justice. It is not simply that Joseph was restored, it was that his betrayers had to witness it. They could not deny what God had done. The same will be true for you. The family that belittled you, the voices that told you you were worthless, the ones who took advantage of your kindness and turned your loyalty into a joke. God will not erase their memory of what they did. Instead, he will elevate you in such a way that they must see the contrast. They will have no choice but to remember the pain they gave and to face the undeniable reality of your rise. Divine justice is not hurried. It unfolds in God's timing, and often that timing feels delayed. But the delay is purposeful, for in the waiting, your character is refined, your faith is strengthened, and your humility is rooted. And when the moment of elevation comes, it is not shallow, fleeting success. It is enduring glory, a glory no one can deny, especially not those who tried to diminish you. The beauty of divine justice is that it requires no effort from you. You do not have to orchestrate your vindication. You do not have to seek ways to prove yourself. You only need to trust, remain faithful, and allow him to fight your battles. He will write the story in such a way that your betrayers become unwilling witnesses to his favor. Their eyes will see, their hearts will know, and though their mouths may never admit it, their silence will shout louder than words. So when you feel forgotten or wronged without defense, remember this: God sees, God records, and God will answer. He has written into your story a justice so complete that those who hurt you will not escape the sight of your rise. They may not applaud, they may not celebrate, but they will see, and seeing is enough. Glory born from pain shines brightest when it cannot be denied by those who caused it. There is something profoundly radiant about glory that emerges from pain. It carries a depth, a weight, and a power that comfort alone can never produce. Anyone can shine when life has been kind, when love has been steady, when support has been constant. But to shine after being broken, to rise after being betrayed, to glow with divine favor after walking through the valley of rejection, that is a light no darkness can extinguish. It is glory refined by fire, tested in sorrow, and made brilliant by endurance. The remarkable thing about glory born from pain is that it is undeniable. People may argue against your words, they may discredit your intentions, they may even continue to whisper lies about who you are, but they cannot argue with what God Himself places upon you. They may try to ignore it, but their eyes will see it. They may try to deny it, but their hearts will know the truth. Glory born from pain is not something you achieve through striving. It is something God places upon you as His mark of victory over your suffering. When family has been the source of your pain, the undeniable nature of this glory becomes even more powerful. For they knew the wounds they inflicted, they knew the rejection they gave, they knew the betrayal they authored. They thought the pain would break you, that it would silence you, that it would reduce you to nothing. Yet when God raises you, they must watch the very opposite unfold. They see you walking in joy instead of despair, standing in strength instead of collapse, crowned with glory instead of covered in shame. And they cannot deny that what they see is the work of God. This is why glory born from pain shines brightest, because it reveals not your strength, but His. It magnifies the truth that no human rejection can cancel God's acceptance. No family betrayal can undo His calling. No earthly wound can prevent His healing. When He covers you in glory, it is not fragile or temporary, it is eternal, undeniable, and unshakable. Consider again the image of Christ after resurrection. His body bore scars, yet His glory was unmatched. The very wounds that had once seemed like evidence of defeat became the proof of victory. His betrayers, His accusers, His deniers, they could not erase what God had done. In the same way, your life will bear witness to a glory born from pain. It will shine in such a way that even those who wounded you will not be able to deny it. They will shine in such a way that even those who wounded you will not be able to deny. And that is the heart of divine justice. Not only that you are healed, not only that you are lifted, but that your transformation becomes visible, undeniable, and radiant before those who once thought you were finished. God does not simply give you private peace, He gives you public glory. And this glory is born from the very pain you thought would destroy you. So if you sit in the silence of family rejection, if you carry the scars of betrayal, if you wonder whether your pain has any purpose, take heart. Your story is not over. The God who saw your tears has not abandoned you. The one who heard the words that cut you has recorded every wound, and He is weaving it all into a tapestry of glory so radiant that even those who caused the pain will not be able to deny it. Remember this truth: the pain was not wasted. The betrayal was not final. The rejection was not the end. Each wound was soil for your destiny. Each scar is evidence of His healing. Each rejection is a stage being prepared, and each act of betrayal has become the opening chapter of His greater narrative. God does not simply restore, He elevates. He does not only heal, He crowns with glory, and when He does, He makes sure the ones who tried to bury you stand as witnesses to His power. Their silence in the face of your rise will echo louder than all their words. Their denial will collapse beneath the weight of His undeniable favor. So lift your head, beloved. Do not fear the scars. Do not despise the pain. Do not be ashamed of the rejection. For the very things meant to destroy you are the very things God is using to glorify you. And when His work is complete, your life will shine with a glory so undeniable that even your family, those who hurt you most, will have no choice but to see, to know, and to tremble at the greatness of what He has done in you. Your pain is not the end, it is the birthplace of glory. And that glory will stand as eternal testimony, not only before the world, not only before your enemies, but before the very ones who once believed you would never rise.